Hey, everybody. Bishop Lisa Weah here. It is Wednesday night, so you know what time it is. It's time for Pastor's Power Session. Go round up everybody in the household. Your mama, your daddy, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your brother, your sister, your spouse. Get the dog tonight. We're going to have an incredible conversation. I have some guests in the room with me tonight, and it's going to be a power-packed time. We're going to have a very relevant conversation tonight, and I believe that you're going to be blessed. I especially want to get our youth and young adults around the screen tonight. If you're in your car, if you're at home, if you're in your room, we want you to shout out. Let us know who you are, where you are. We want to hear from you. Elder Nazel is in the room tonight. Amen. And he is out in St. Louis. Right. He's not on the East Coast tonight. So he's joining us from St. Louis. Sister Tracy Allen, our expert mental health professional. And she took a break tonight from her doctoral studies to jump in the room with us. Say good evening to Sister Tracy, everybody. And we are so excited. Our Morgan State University freshman, Sister Jayla Johnson, is in the house tonight, and we are so excited. Y'all say, hey, Jayla, to Jayla on tonight. We are going to engage in some conversation. So I'm giving y'all a minute to get into the room. So much going on at the MBBC this month. If you have not registered for our last Sunday brunch worship experience of 2023, make sure you go to the mbbc.org. Do it tonight and purchase your brunch in advance. We'll see you on campus at noon. I will be preaching from our theme of changing forward. To Sunday's title is Unsettling Change. Unsettling Change. So if you're dealing with some things that have shaken you up, be online at 9 a.m. Sunday for the word, and be in the house at noon for brunch if you're in Baltimore. We're looking forward to our Christmas fellowship and party on Friday the 22nd. It is free on campus at 7 p.m. Christmas Eve will be online at 9 and live in person at 12. And then New Year's Eve, we're saying goodbye to 2023. We will have online at 9. We'll be in person at noon and in person at 7:30. Who's with us tonight? Sister Lenora, hey, good evening to you. Deacon Bertha, good evening, good evening, good evening. Y'all make sure you shout us out. And if you have any questions or topics for this panel of young people, I'm excited to talk to people who are younger than me tonight because they're going to teach me some things. I think that, well, let's open in prayer, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. Father, we thank you for this evening, and thank you for this opportunity to sit with you and to share with one another. Lord, we pray that something that's said tonight will uplift someone, that will encourage someone, that will educate someone, and that will help us, God, to be who you called us to be and to handle everything that you've placed in this season to sharpen us and to groom us and grow us. God, we are grateful for you and for all that you're doing. And we give you glory, honor, and praise even now. In Jesus' name, we say amen. Good evening, Minister Hope. Good evening, Minister Rose. Amen. Y'all continue to shout out. Let us know who you are, where you are. There are so many challenges going on right now. And we did a talk a few weeks ago just about, holiday blues and depression and handling the season. And we talked about what it looks like, for men, for women dealing with stress and anxiety and all this stuff. What we didn't really talk about is what are our young people facing? What are our young adults looking at? What are our youth dealing with? And so often, I can't tell you how many parents I have had to talk with just over this past week who are dealing with behavioral things and children acting out of character. I can't tell you how many young adults I've talked to who are just depressed, just overwhelmed right now. And, just being encouraging goes a long way right now. But I was like, wow, there's a lot going on. There's a lot on people's minds. And I think it's often not until um, the behavior changes and the teacher has the call or something that, we really think, oh, wow, they're dealing with something with our young adults. There's a lot of pressure going to school, going to work, dealing with family things. And how often do we really sit and, say, how are you doing? And then if we do, how many really feel like they can share, like they can open up and share? And so let me start with Elder Nazel. Like, when we look at where we are right now, what people are dealing with, and then, it's always heightened when we're coming into this holiday season. What has been your observation that you've observed that is really pressing right now?
Um, well, also working in the school system,
Mm-hmm.
I also see a lot, and for what I've been seeing, there is a high rate of students, African American students, dealing with depression, um, dealing with anxiety, um, and I had one today who had suicide ideations, and you know, he was expressing to me that he feels that his parents don't understand or they aren't able to hear him out clearly. And I think even with that, I had to kind of respond to him and say it's very hard for a parent, any parent, to hear that their child is dealing with something mentally going on with them in their head. And so, wow, I think she hears you and they hear you. They don't know how to respond. They don't know what to do in order to get you the professional help. And so now, because the older generation didn't have to really deal with what's happening now with the depression, with the anxiety, with got medications. And so now, we've kind of just parents nowadays have just started to, push away how their kids feeling because sometimes parents think maybe they're just playing, maybe they want to not get in trouble in school or something or get out of something, and so some parents think that they are just coming up with something in order to get out of something. However, I do think that parents need to, if their child is expressing that, need to really listen and take their child to get seen. I think it's okay. It's okay taking them to a hospital to get seen, to get checked out, to make sure that if this is real, that we are providing every solution to help their child to navigate this. I learned that today that there's about 53% of our Black youth who experience moderate to severe symptoms of depression. And
What was
so
the
many,
percent?
53%,
Wow.
53% of Black youth experience moderate and severe symptoms of depression. Um, but again, going back to, I just don't believe that our parents know how to deal or handle with when their child is coming to say, they no longer want to be here physically or they're depressed. And well, what you depressed about? You don't pay no bills. Well, life be life and sometimes. And God, there's some things that, children don't talk about that they are afraid to talk about because oftentimes parents kind of push it away because they don't want to hear or they think it's fake. And so that's what I believe is one of the biggest things that not just high schoolers, but I believe that young adults are also facing that as well.
And that is that is so on point with what I'm hearing as well. One of the conversations that I had with some parents was this anxiety about being liked and accepted. And this was from, little ones through, grown young adults. um, the worry about being accepted, being in the in group. And it sounds so, trivial, but, this whole thing about likes. And I was talking with um, one of my therapist friends about this whole thing with likes. And she said, well, think about it. When we were young, because I was like, we weren't worried about who liked us like that when we were little. We were focused on doing our stuff. And she's like, well, think about it. Young people now are growing up in a culture with the social media. It's all about how many followers you have, how many likes. Look, Christy's right on it, social media. How many likes you get. Like, you're watching everything you post to see, how many people liked it. And that translates into real life. So for me, for instance, I filled up my social media followers because I use social media to evangelize, to market what's going on at the church. But that doesn't mean my friends are literally my friends. Like, I don't know them. It's more about me communicating a message. But she was saying how, they look at friends as these are my friends, and it's important that they like me. And if they like what I posted, that means they like me. And so I was like, well, I guess I can see how that can cause great anxiety. Jayla, what do you think? Like, you've grown up in social media world. Like, how important is this?
Very unfortunately. I even went through a period of it when I was very young, like in middle school and through elementary school, with like wanting to have friends and going up to people and thinking that everybody was my friend. And, we have a couple conversations, or you're my friend, or you might compliment me. And I was lucky enough to have parents who are more stern with me and worry more about my well-being than more wanting to adapt to me or like to be my friend. And they would let me know that everybody's not your friend. You have to understand people's character. Not everybody is for you. Not everybody has God in their life. Not everybody is going to be like you. So don't just think that everybody's going to adapt to you. Everybody wants to be your friend. And even with like social media, I wasn't allowed to have a social media until a certain age where I could understand that, like, these likes don't matter. Who follows you does not matter. Social media is not your life. You can live and adapt without it. And because of that, I'm very grateful for them. But I've grown up around a lot of people who maybe did not have that or had a different version of it, but they do think that social media is their life. Like, it's very important. Like, they want to show themselves off for social media, and they probably don't even live the life that they portray on social media. So it can get very crazy. Unfortunately, I'm sad. I always talk about, like, I hope that at one point we can just like go without it, because y'all have before, and I feel like people from previous generations have. Not everybody has turned out as great, but I feel like y'all grew up in a non-social media world where y'all understand real life and real morals and character, and but I don't feel like our generation has that at all. So.
So it's really like no line between the social media world and
Mhm. The
and
real
the
world.
real world.
No, not at all. Everything runs together for a lot of people. You would be very surprised. Wake up, straight to social media. Go to sleep, social media. Up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, social media. It's just always like the phone is never down, ever, for a lot of people. Yeah, I find that happening to myself sometimes, and I put my phone down and go do something else that might be more productive. So it's really sad,
So
unfortunately.
you make yourself take social media breaks to keep from getting caught up in that.
Yes. I don't really get caught up in it because I feel like I understand the difference between real world and social media. So I don't have as much of a problem. But even with just me being on my phone in general, I will put my phone down because that's a lot of screen time, too much. Go do something more productive with your time instead of having your face in a phone or on a screen for so long, especially social media, because social media is unhinged and nothing is protected on the social media, and what you might want to see on there, you might not, you might get something else. So it's just like you never know what you're gonna see with social media, and that might alter your thinking, your mindset. It has a big influence on a lot of people in a lot of lives.
So would you say that social media might be a bigger influence on this generation than their home or than the church or, role
Definitely.
models? Yeah.
Because a lot of people, even with, as far as like you said, at home, people get on social media, find different friends. They looking at other people in their families, their family dynamics. They're comparing it to theirs. Now they're looking at their home in a certain way. Even with church, like you have a lot of people who aren't religious. You have different religions on social media. You have people who worship the devil. Like you have a plethora of things regarding religion. So with somebody who just is putting themselves on social media or looking at social media, you see all of this. Your mind wanders about a lot of things, but that's why you have to be very confident and know yourself before you get yourself involved into social media, because it can have an effect on you to change and alter your mindset a lot.
Wow. Tracy, jump in here.
I was listening to Madam Jayla, to
Oh,
watch her from a little girl until a freshman in college and how confident and well spoken she is.
yes.
I don't see a lot of that with the kids that I have worked with. So it's almost like foreign territory when you see it now.
Mm-mm.
Even working at the college, the Morgan State University, shout out to us Bears. Um, it is one of those things. Eldon Hazel got a hater in his spirit. Oh my goodness, Jayla, did you see that? It's one
And
of
we
those
all have
things.
Morgan ties because I've been on EAA, the voice of the community, for, oh my goodness, has it been 15 years? Oh my goodness. It's been a long time. Yeah. Uh-oh. He's on Media Ministries putting VUU, and he knows I went to Howard.
But it's one of those things where I see a lot of it on either side.
Wow.
Young adults, teenagers, adults. Ironically, I had a conversation with my little cousin earlier. She's 34. And one of the things that she said, she's been so much happier since being off of social media. And she's like, social media makes you feel like you have to have all of these things. And the one thing I said to her, I said, you have to be grounded in knowing that things do not equate to happiness. And as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, that's hard to instill in somebody when that's all that you see.
Mm. Oh, I think Tracy froze. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
These kids are walking around with $200 sneakers and with their uniforms, and it makes the other kids like, oh well, I don't have those kind of sneakers, so I must not be equally as good. And it's just this culture of things over morals, as Jayla said, or principles or values, and a lot of it now the parents are kind of encouraging that. So you have parents who are, equally as you have parents who are equally as materialistic, and they're encouraging the stuff more so than the grades.
Wow. The stuff more so than the grades. And I think one of the things, Jayla, that you just said was the role of your parents in keeping you grounded so that
Mm.
you didn't get caught up in those things. And so I think understanding that even if the home isn't any longer the main influence, that it's still an important influence.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, Elder Nazel, in your experience in working with the young people, um, do you see a lot of involvement still from the parents in helping them to deal with the pressures that they're facing? Do you find that they do better when the parents are very involved?
Um, yes and no. Um, I've seen it where parents are involved, and it certainly has helped the child's behavior and all that. But I also have seen where parents are not involved, and um, them not being involved has played a traumatic experience with some kids as well. I even have kids who don't even know what it feels like to even have to have anybody involved in their life. And so to I guess to kind of place or to deal with what's more important when it comes to the involvement of parent or a guardian. Again, I think it's very, very important. I've seen change, but I've also, again, have not seen change. And I think, as we said earlier, it kind of starts at home. The foundation of them wanting to come to learn, having respect, having XYZ. It starts at home, and unfortunately, um, I've learned that this gener these generation of parents, um, for some reason, have there's a don't shoot me, Facebook, but I think that there's a lacking of parenting coming from the 30-40 age group. And so then they bring what they don't have or what they do have to school. And now it's up to the teachers, and now it's up to the social worker or the counselor to deal with things that should be dealt with at home. But as Jayla said, we have more friends than parents. We have more Gucci belts. I didn't touch a Gucci belt till I was about 25, and I've seen so many Gucci belts at 15 and 16, or McQueen's, and I was blessed to even get some Jordans, but just seeing so much happening in our schools now with parent involvement, without parent involvement. Um, I just again I've seen it both ways, but I think it's very important to have the parent or a family or even the church to huddle around those who need that support and involvement in the school. I think that certainly makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, when we look at the images that young people are seeing on social media, um, and recognizing that it's now difficult to differentiate what's real from what is just an image. Um, Jayla, would you say that perhaps the not measuring up to some kind of standard that we're seeing on social media is having a big toll on young people's self-image, on their self-esteem, that they're feeling they're not measuring up to what social media says they ought to look like or be like or have, and that is one of the factors that's leading to this depression and anxiety and so forth, that they're trying to keep up with what they're seeing and not even realizing that what they're seeing isn't real.
I actually think that that's the main thing that
Wow. The
that affects us a lot. It can starting with like you might see someone who on social media who seems to, when it comes to their face, they have no blemishes, their face seems perfect, you know. So now someone with acne who struggles with blemishes and stuff, they're looking like, oh, I wish that I could have this perfect face, this clear face. I wish that I could look like this. When in all reality, this person who seems to have a clear face might be using filters. They might, you know, like they might mark up their face. This might be photoshopped. You know, like you never know what somebody is goes on with somebody's life behind their screen. So that could affect someone's life. You know, that starts depression, anxiety. You don't want to go out in public with your face not looking as beautiful as everyone else is, when in all reality everyone is unique in their own way. It even goes down to bodies. A lot of people in my generation and about the to the 20 to the 30 age brackets are really worried on being slim, really into getting plastic surgery done on their bodies so they can be perfect or be social media's standard of perfect, because perfect is natural. Perfect is, there's no such thing as being perfect. Everybody has flaws, but you see social media influencers and celebrities, everybody's out here getting their bodies done. And this is the image that people look at. Like, this is what people believe is perfect. This is what people look up to. These are people's idols. So I want to look like them so I can also be idolized by somebody. When in reality, the only person that you should idolize is God. That's what happens in a lot of, we don't focus on things that are really important. And a lot of the times those people with those bodies, they also have dealt with this depression, this anxiety, this not feeling perfect. And even when they get bodies, they don't stop at just one surgery, because now they feel like it's necessary for them to perfect or think that they're perfecting every single enhancement that might not look as good to them on their body. So as much as you might think you're not perfect, they're not thinking they're not perfect either, because they've gone through these changes. They've risked their lives to make themselves feel perfect, and even after the surgery, it might make them feel even worse. So I feel
oh,
like that's a big problem. You might see somebody on social media with this house, this car, as far as like adults, this house, this car, they're married, they have kids, you know, like, and someone who might not have that, who might be single, finding themselves, you know, it's like, wow, I really want this family. I really want this perfect life, this American dream. When in reality, you don't know what's happening in this person's marriage, what's going on with this person's financial status, what these people go through on the daily, what their kids go through. So I just feel like social media literally puts a blanket over a lot of the things that goes on behind closed doors. A lot of things that we think are perfect, or we think somebody might not be going through something, they are going through way worse than the person on the other side of the screen. So
wow. And I want to ask you one follow up on that before I go to Tracy for the mental health perspective on this. But so your generation, Jayla, is growing up also into this world where reality TV is the main TV, when we actually know that reality TV isn't even real. Like, do the young people really think that what they're seeing on reality TV is really what the home is supposed to be like?
I'm gonna say yes and no. Yes, because as in a lot of reality TVs, you know, like one of the shows that are really popular in my generation right now is something called Baddies. I've never watched it, but I know a lot of people who have, and um, a lot of the people that star in it, they follow up on their lives on social media. So a lot of it seems real because, you know, they're following up with it. This seems to be like what happens in their everyday life. Like, oh, this is happening off of TV, off of what I see on reality. So this might really be this person's life. This might really be real. When, like you said, reality TV isn't real. A lot of it is scripted, because it's not a real thing. It's drama. It's supposed to entertain. It's supposed to grab people in. That's not real. So, and I'm also going to say no, because a person like me can watch reality TV and understand like the real from the fake. Or even if I don't, um, I'm not comparing that to my lifestyle because I know what's for me. It's for me. What God has for me, He has for me, and what He has for somebody else is their plan. So I'm not gonna compare them or make me feel like I'm down on the lower pedestal because I see this on TV. Because I don't know what God put that person through to get there, and I might not be the path that God is gonna put me through to get wherever I'm gonna end up. So,
Wow. All right, so Tracy, um, I grew up in a sitcom world. Like we had sitcoms. It was scripted family life. It was filtered so that, when I grew up, Lucy and Desi didn't even sleep in the same bed. They had twin beds in the bedroom. That is how seriously conservative what we saw was then. What happened between then and now? That's question one. And then question two is, if this is what the young people are seeing now, and it's affecting their self-esteem, how do we recognize the red flags that that someone has a serious, body dysmorphic disorder going on here? We watched Michael Jackson. Like, we joke about, do you like black Michael Jackson or white Michael Jackson? But this is a real serious issue. And like Jayla was saying, if you don't look like the image, back in the day, we didn't really want anything we could do about it. Like we didn't have weaves and stuff when I was little. You couldn't, go buy some hair to look how you want. Now, I can at least do that. But it's like, how do we deal with this? How do we recognize the red flags to make sure that this generation doesn't go completely off the track and they all turn into Michael Jackson? So that was two separate questions. So deal with them, unpack them as you want to.
So I think in terms of TV and what sells is what actually changed. I think household dynamics changed. Growing up, me as a little girl, I got called Rudy Huxtable all the time because I grew up with two parents. It wasn't the same anymore. With you growing up, I'm sure more families were two-parent households. By the time I came along, it was a little different. You still had some, but it wasn't as frequent. And I think the TV changed with the times. I think another thing that has to do with image is, even still growing up, when Bishop, when you were growing up, when I was growing up, the idea of what was beautiful was more Eurocentric. The more pointier your nose, the longer your hair, the lighter your skin. So that colorism that has infested the Black community, it has a lot to do with this as well, because you have a lot of parents who favor their lighter children. You have a lot of parents who are relaxing their daughter's hair because it's nappy. You have all of these things that create and instill a false sense of beauty young. So when I grow up, I want to make sure that I never wear my natural hair. I don't like my complexion. So, some people are bleaching. You have people in Africa and Jamaica who are bleaching because of that self-hate, and that imposed those ideals of what the beauty standards are. So we've been dealing with generations and generations of hate that has been tossed into our equations, not that we planted it there, but it's been implanted there. And so now it's up to us to try to come out of it. The problem with that is we don't know how. And as a culture, therapy is taboo. What happens in this house stays in this house. And there are children right now who come from parents and grandparents and great grandparents who preach that. So why am I gonna, do anything differently? I wasn't taught that. What you know about being depressed? Why are you depressed? What you anxious for? I got to pay all of these bills. I work every day. I do all of these things, and it's dismissed. While school is hard, these kids are mean. There are kids that are, fighting for their lives every single day at home, and they bring that anger into school and they displace it onto everybody else. And then you have kids that are easy targets. As a child, I would have been an easy target because I had two parents. I was mild mannered. I was quiet. I dressed nice like everybody else. I had long hair, but I would be a target. So I would be bullied, and I was bullied. And I was bullied by children who didn't have what I had, who didn't have the upbringing that I had. And that's what these children deal with. And so they isolate or they become angry, or they hook school, they find a reason not to go to school, or they all of a sudden have all of these illnesses where they need to go to the doctor. And I think part of being a parent of young people now is being observant of those changes in behavior, what's happening. Because a lot of times you can ask a child, hey, how was school today? Oh, it was fine. No, what happened in school today? If your child can't have a conversation with you about school and they get to be dismissive and they don't want to be bothered and they don't want to talk about school, there's a problem, and you need to be present for those things that are happening, in school. It doesn't matter how old your child is. It's okay to pop up in the school and see what's going on to get a feel for the environment. I've had to do it twice this week with, my little cousin. He showed off one of those days, and I was right in there the very next day after I got the call that night that he was showing off in school. It's like you have to be active and present because those kids need support. They need consistency. That's another thing that they're lacking. Kids aren't getting the consistency and support that they need. And a lot of it, you have single moms. They're working 2 and 3 jobs to support kids. So the kids are raising themselves. And I don't knock a single mom because you have to get it done the best way you know how. But that also leaves kids, no room to kind of be a child. They're forced to grow up, and then they come to school and you try to treat them like a 13-year-old. How does that work? I'm 13, but I take care of 2 younger siblings, and I fix them food at night, and I make sure they go to bed. I'm not the average child. And correct, they are not. And I saw Minister Beans, how can we help to erase the stigma of self-entitlement that seems to be engulfing our youth today? I want us to kind of focus on the why that self-entitlement is there and not necessarily the fact that it's there. I think a lot of times we get caught up on the fact that we are the elders and children are supposed to respect their elders. Well, a lot of these kids aren't raised like that. They're raised, you respect who respects you. And we don't know what respect looks like to them. Growing up, you respected your elders and you were taught to do that. Even Jayla's parents taught her to respect their elders because that's what they were taught. But these kids aren't like that. So we have to not always be so quick to label them as being something or being entitled. Sometimes that's the only control that they have. They may not have control over any other aspect of their lives, but how they act towards other people. That's the one thing I can control. I can control how much of I let you into my space and how I treat you. And if I'm angry about so many other things that are going on in my life, I don't owe you anything but what I have to give. And if that's negativity, then that's what they have to give. But I think we should focus on getting to know and understand more so than to label.
That's good. That is good. Now, jump on the second half of what I was asking about. How do we recognize when our comparisons and trying to keep up with image are turning into like a real mental health problem? Like,
So believe it or not, there's research now. There's even a tool. It's the social media induced depression scale. There's a scale. There's research that people are doing around, social media and depression and anxiety. And I think it's just watching out for that change in your child. If your child is typically happy with wearing their hair in a ponytail, and then they come home and say, well, I want to weave now. Why? What's happening? And one of my girlfriends from high school, her daughter was going through that. Very pretty natural hair. She has micro locks, and she hates her hair because the girls at school don't understand the beauty in her naturalness. So she was having a hard time embracing that natural hair. But her mother put her foot down. Let's talk about what it means to be beautiful and what that really looks like. Encouraging your kids. What's changing? What's changing? It's those subtle changes. Like, we have to take the time to pay attention to what's happening with those subtle changes. If all of a sudden, let's say, even as a freshman in college, Jayla goes home and tells her parents, I don't think that, I don't like how I look. I want a nose job. That's not something she's ever asked for before. Why was she, what's going on now? There's something happening. There's some type of critique coming from somewhere. Like, behavior tells all. If I start as a little girl, I was going to school mild mannered and I was well put together. And then all of a sudden I have my shirt tied up in the knot in the back or tied up, showing my stomach in the front. There's something happening. The behavior tells all with kids. If something's always going to change, whether it's the isolation or whether it's acting out behavior. And the depression isn't always sadness. Sometimes it's irritability. Sometimes it's anger. So you think depressed, somebody sad. It doesn't always look like that. It can easily be irritability or anger. So you want to pay attention to the changes in behavior, the changes in mood, eating habits. Are they eating a whole lot more than they used to? Are they eating a whole lot less than they used to? How are they sleeping? Are they not sleeping? Are they oversleeping? Pay attention to those things.
So recognizing what it looks like in younger people, and this is a good follow-up on that from Christy, because I think adults tend to look for the common signs of depression in children and not recognizing, like you just said, that it looks different. And I think it even looks different in women and men, if I'm correct.
It does. It does.
Yeah. So, because I think in the last conversation I did in a chat, Shauna was pointing out that it often presents as anger in men. So, okay. Well, let me go to Elder Nazel, since we're talking men as well. Does this self-image issue affect men the same way as women? And perhaps we just don't recognize it because men typically aren't running out doing what Michael Jackson did. And they don't appear to be as obsessed with, the hair and the clothing and all of that. But is it the same phenomenon going on with our men? And you transitioned from youth, young adult, and you're now in your 30s decade, correct? And you stayed grounded and kind of did the traditional thing, got married and all of that. We don't see a lot of that going on now. Like, how did you stay grounded in all of that in your head? So that's really two questions.
Okay. So I do think that men, boys have that struggle. I think it's shown differently. It may be I think when it comes to men, it may be a weight thing. God, they want to have the best 6-pack or the best 3-pack, or even just the swag and in the attire that they wear. And so I do think that for some that there is a struggle in that area. For me, I think in high school there was there was a moment where Lord, I'm on social media. Okay. There was a moment that I struggled with, as a guy. I was in high school and I had man boobs, y'all, and it bothered it bothered me so bad. I struggled with that. So I cried trying to figure out, like, dang, like I'm running track and I'm still growing man boobs. Like, wow, what's going on? Like, why am I not doing? Why isn't something happening? And so, but that was just me gaining weight. That's all. But and so I struggled with that for a while. I want to say my junior year, I struggled with that. But then one day I spoke to myself, and I had to encourage my own self to say that like somebody is gonna love me for me and what I have and who I have. Now I know I got to do my own thing and be consistent and work out if I want to get rid of this. However, I think as a man, I had to be confident in who I am and what I look like, despite what was there temporarily. And so many times men have a hard time with just encouraging themselves, or young boys have a hard time encouraging themselves because they don't know what it looks like. If you turn on TikTok, here is something, and now I possibly want to get the latest shoes or this outfit because I've seen so and so in it, or nowadays there's this new artist, right, named got Sexy Red, right? And so how can I be um swagged out and handsome to be able to get someone that looks like Sexy Red? And so I do think that men and boys still deal with it, but I think it's more so in their body shape, in what they look like, without a shirt, with a shirt. Like, it hurt me growing up that I couldn't go to the pool as a child and take my shirt off. I'm not taking my shirt off. But that was a part of, low self-esteem and being confident in myself and trusting myself that someone is going to love and like me with who and what it is that I have currently. So yeah.
That's good. That never occurred to me. I would not ever have thought of that. That's what the men are thinking. I always saw from perception that they seem to base self-esteem on how many women they could accumulate, things like that. It never crossed my mind that it was actually something about their literal self image. Because it seems like it's less acceptable for a woman, for instance, to be overweight than for a man. A man can be overweight and have 10 women running after him. A woman overweight, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Because of stereotypes of what we're supposed to look like. Like, I struggled with my weight for 50 years, but I mean a lot when I was younger, and to the point where I had pretty much stopped eating. I remember walking down the hall in middle school, and see, these are those things you never forget. This was the 80s. I'm walking down the hall and I heard one of the boys behind me saying, Lisa Suggs is so fat. Look how fat she is. And that stayed with me. I'm getting ready to turn 53, and I still remember that from 40 years ago. So that by the time I graduated from high school, I was a size 6, and I barely ate because I was so paranoid about not getting heavy. And I stayed pretty much that way until I got pregnant. And then my weight battles, came again, but it was more so, for health reasons, now that I'm conscious about it. But I never saw the struggle with men being overweight. The boys could be however they wanted and still have all these girls chasing after them. And so that was very interesting that you brought that out. Another thing that Tracy alluded to was this colorism issue.
Yeah.
And so, when we look at who are the images that this generation is seeing as beautiful, I think one of the social media controversies that came up, I think it was last week, that y'all may have seen, was how Beyonce looked at her movie premiere with the platinum hair. And it caused a big thing. And her mother got on social media to, defend her. But, people were going in like, oh, I thought she looked like a Kardashian. She's trying to look like a white woman, yada, yada, yada. I've talked to a lot of light women who were made to feel ugly to keep them in check. And maybe just as many as I have talked to dark women who, I remember the comments about, oh yeah, Lisa is cute for a brown skinned girl. She's not even light skinned and she's cute. And it's like, wow, really? Like they have to qualify what they say. So I'm coming back to Jayla because you've just like always been fabulous and presented yourself like with such glam. Like, how did you formulate such high self-esteem at such a young age?
Well, I didn't always have such high self-esteem. When I was younger, I was thicker. I was way thicker than I am now. I was almost like 200 pounds. So I was overweight for a person of my age, and this was like in throughout middle school. So I struggled with that a lot. Like throughout it all, my mom, my dad would like always remind me, like you're still beautiful. Like this is, people gain weight, people lose weight. Like your weight doesn't define who you are. So I always had somebody around me who were that encouraged me, but still I didn't feel like like I didn't feel it in me. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you do have parents who are in your life, who are active, who support you. How you feel is going to be how you feel at the end of the day. So I still didn't feel like I was where I wanted to be at. So throughout high, like 8th grade to 10th grade, I went down like tremendously. I lost 60 pounds, so now I was at 130. So, it turned a lot of heads, caused a lot of confusion. So now my parents are coming to me, like they were always involved in my life, and they see me change how I ate, change what I did, was trying to be more active. They seen that, and they like Tracy said, like they always made sure that it was something that I wanted to do and not something that I was doing because I felt bad about myself or somebody was talking down on me, or that they always wanted to make sure there was something that I was doing for me, and it was. I never really had anybody like talk down upon me directly, but it has definitely happened indirectly, like you said, walking down the hall and hearing it, or like hearing it from somebody that somebody said, you hear things and it's a blow, but like after, when you have somebody in the corner, like my mom would always tell me like words don't matter, what somebody say does not matter, like, so that helped me a lot. Even when you talked about the light skin and dark skin thing, I was dark. My mother always told me that my skin was beautiful, like like beauty is in all people in all colors, it doesn't matter. But in my generation right now, there's the stigma that light-skinned women are prettier than dark-skinned women. And I even had an altercation last week where a light-skinned woman literally bashed me for being dark-skinned on social media out of the blue. So it's just that, like, over the years, of course, like I've developed high self-esteem. Like I'm, older now, I'm more mature, like different morals, like stuff like that doesn't affect me, thank God, because something like that could have sent somebody with low self-esteem into depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. Like that could have been bad for somebody who doesn't have high self-esteem, or, so it was just like that, of course, throws off the shoulder, but it's just like, it's sad that that's generally what people think. Like, and even I feel like as a Black woman, that should have never, that should have never been the thought to come out of someone's mouth, or even as a woman, period. Like, women are supposed to be for women, you support all women, especially Black women, because we go through enough as is. So just to hear it coming from another Black woman was like, wow, like that's sad that you think that way, but it's just like, everybody is different. Everybody is
Wow. That is so incredible First of all, it's incredible that you had that grounding at home and you heard your parents telling you that you are beautiful and that your skin is beautiful. And I'm thinking about all the young people who don't
Who
have
need that?
there's nobody at home telling them they're beautiful. There's nobody at home telling them how beautiful their skin is, how no matter what size they are, that they are loved. There's nobody telling them that they're smart or that they can do it. Like, that is so powerful, because we keep saying that the home is no longer the most important influence, but it really is. It can make a major difference. And so, it's like, what do we say to all these people growing up, once they're old enough to start processing what people are saying, and then they come into young adulthood, and it's like, nobody's ever going to want me, nobody's ever going to love me, I'm never going to be good enough. Like, because you can carry that into your adult life and just have this whole defeated attitude. Like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we say? How can we fill in the gap for people who don't have that at home?
It can come from other people. It doesn't have to come from your home. I've seen it come from outside sources, from friends, from teachers, from therapists, like from other people who have access to people who can speak to someone who might be going through something like that. It really only takes one person out of a million people who are putting them down. It takes one person to have faith in you, to build you up, to tell you something encouraging, and for you, somebody can take that and run with it. As far as a negative comment can take you, one positive comment can really build you up. Like in my generation right now, a lot of girls struggle in their relationships because they might not have grown up with a father. So as they get older, they look for love in wrong places. They struggle with the perception of a good guy because they've never seen it at home. They've never seen their mother go through it. So in that scenario, I feel like it would have to come from someone who came from a loving home to show them that, like, you might not have had a person show you this, but I'm here to show you that this is what love looks like from a male's perspective. Like, they go looking for it in the wrong places. They search for it throughout their lives. It's really bad. But I feel like it really takes one person to build you up. That's all that it is. It doesn't matter who it comes from. You need one person. And for some people, that one person has to or is God. One simple conversation with him can start a journey of your life that you never thought you would have been able to enter into. That's how I entered into my stage of losing weight, building this high self-esteem, becoming this person that a lot of people younger than me look up to, or even people my age look up to. A lot of it is because I really do have a relationship with God, and I feel like that's really what helped me. Besides my parents, having a good family home, God, besides all of that, God has really helped me come as far as I've came. I've developed my own relationship with them. This is not because my parents have brought me to church. This is not because my parents are Christians, so they've forced me into it. It's because I've found my own way, and God has helped me throughout it all. So I stuck with him because he's stuck with me. So he was also the one person to get me through a lot of stuff. Like when I might have felt alone, or like I didn't have anybody, a simple prayer, a conversation, you get your cry out, you listen, you watch out for, different signs that he might be teaching you. Like it definitely has helped me a long way becoming this person that I am today. And I hope I stick with it throughout it all.
There's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say. My God, Jayla.
Yeah.
Wow. Wait a minute. This is wonderful gospel, Bishop. Someone here listening to you.
Yeah.
Wow. This is incredible. It's really nothing
Oh,
else to
Jayla, you got Trina crying in the
say.
comments.
You're
You
killing
got
us. You're
Trina
killing
crying
us, Jayla.
in the
This is nothing
comments.
else. We're
Yes,
gonna
I feel
end.
like it's needed, and it's so crazy because that's also what needs to be put more into social media, more God, more people in relationship with God. And on all of my social media platforms, I talk about my relationship with God. I speak about God. And it's so funny seeing people, not funny, but it's very great seeing people come to me like, oh, how do you build this relationship with God? I see that you always post quotes. Like, how do you learn about this? Like, you go to church every Sunday. You seem so God-fearing. I'm like, it's something that you have to want for yourself. You have to want that relationship with God. You have to work for it. You have to believe in Him. You have to practice Him. This is something that you have to want for yourself. It's not nothing that I can teach you. I'm not perfect. My relationship with God is not perfect. I still have a lot of bumps in the road. I still have a lot of things to learn. I still can be way more disciplined, way more focused. So it's not anything I can teach you besides sit with Him, talk with Him, and understand your dynamic with God, whoever you practice, whatever it is that you focus on, because not everybody's is the same. I give a lot of tips and tricks, like pray every day, go to church, talk to your pastor, talk to your church family, like a lot of this has helped me strengthen my relationship with God. But at the end of the day, you have to want it for you. If I didn't want it for myself, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would believe in God, if I would be as disciplined, if I would be coming to church every Sunday. But because I want it for me, this is what I do, and it has helped me a lot. Like it's not a gimmick. It's not, like I've grown with Him. He's grown with me. So hey, you got to want it for you.
We have nothing to add to this. Jayla has ministered to us tonight. So I think this has left us on the note for our next session. We're going to be in person, everybody, in 2 weeks. Is that right? The Wednesday after, 2 weeks. The Wednesday after Christmas, the week between Christmas and New Year's. We're doing a live session. We're going to be in person, and I wish I could remember where it is. Elder Nazar's going to post it after we get off. We're going to be in person. We're going to break bread, chat, and chew. Young adults, go to thembbc@gmail.com. Go there now and just say RSVP. Just type, I want to come, and we'll know what you mean. Send it. We'll put you on the reservation list because we're going to chat in person. I think we need to pick up here because what we really didn't get into is relationships and how these things all mix together and formulate the kind of relationships we get into, the things we tolerate in relationships that we shouldn't tolerate, the things that we consider normative that shouldn't be normative, and how a lot of times we don't know how to have a healthy relationship with our friends or with a significant other because of all of these influences, the social media, the reality TV, the self-esteem things. And so that's what we're going to be talking about on the 27th, because that will leave everybody like 4 days to go through their contacts and delete people that they should not be taking into 2024, and to help reevaluate like what we should be accepting in our space, the boundaries that we need to have in our lives. So, young people, that's what we'll be talking about. We're gonna make it 18 and up for that time because we might get into some kind of deep conversation. Yeah. And I don't know if Elder Nazel's going to be on the East Coast that night, but if he and Evangelist are there, because they are, well, they're not really newlyweds anymore, but they're a good example of a young Christian couple making it work. Jayla, your relationship with God, like, is something that grown folk are envying, like older people. So you stay encouraged and know that we are proud of you. We are celebrating you. We are all here for you, and we're looking to see what God is going to do with you, because it's incredible that you are so beautiful to look at, but you are just as beautiful on the inside. And you are a young Christian who is not boring with it. So you are really deeply serious in your walk, but like you're not walking around looking like the old church lady, like, and sitting home, watching soap operas. Like, that's what people my age do. You are like living a young adult life, but you're doing it the right way. And so, girl, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. People
Thank you
still
so
going on
much.
comments. Yeah. So make sure you read the comments when we got off. Tracy, thank you so much for making sure we have a proper mental health perspective and understanding of what's going on. Elder Nazell, thank you for holding it down for the men. And we're looking forward to what you're going to be doing with our youth and young adults, even at the MBBC. We're so grateful that you stay connected with us no matter where you are, and we're proud of what you're doing. All right, Tracy's got to get back to her doctoral studies. Everybody, if you would like to sow tonight, please do so. Our Cash App is $the MBBC. Visit us at the mbbc.org. Purchase your brunch for Sunday, or go to our giving and connect through your giving seed. We are continuing the dream, changing forward, and we bless God for each and every one of you. We pray that you have a safe and blessed evening. And that's it, y'all. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.